and welcome to the first ever episode of Damsels After Dark, where we, your lovely hosts, deep dive into a book from cover to cover each week to discuss, analyze, rant, obsess, all of it. This week we read Kingdom of the Wicked, which is the first book in the Kingdom of the Wicked series. And it got a lot of really good reviews on Amazon and Goodreads, though I don't exactly know why. But we'll get into the whys of that later. This review is a deep dive, so it will have spoilers. If you haven't finished reading the book or you still want to read the book, please consider yourself warned. Without further ado, let's get into it.
So I'm going to read the book description that was posted on Amazon as well as Goodreads. So it's a story about two sisters, one brutal murder, a quest for vengeance that will unleash hell itself, and intoxicating romance. Amelia and her twin sister Victoria are witches who live secretly among humans, avoiding notice and persecution. One night, Victoria misses dinner service at her family's renowned Sicilian restaurant. Amelia soon finds her body of her beloved twin desecrated beyond belief. Devastated, Amelia sets out to find her sister's killer and to seek revenge at any cost given, even if it means using dark magic that's been long forbidden. When Amelia meets Wrath, one of the most wicked princes of hell, she has been warned against in tales since she was a child. Wrath claims to be on Amelia's side, tasked by his master with solving the series of women's murders on an island, but when it comes to the wicked, nothing is as it seems.
Ooh.
Super interesting.
It sounds so intriguing. So we are going to go through some of the main events that happen in the book, or the non-events that happen as well. And the book starts off with a prologue, which I thought was an interesting choice. It's from Nona's point of view, which is the grandmother of the two girls. And she's talking a lot about that the devil's coming to reclaim what was stolen from him. She's watching her two twin granddaughters as I think they're putting like a spell or cleansing their amulets or
like
something.
A protection spell on it. All this is happening during a storm outside. Mm-hmm. That was claimed to be happening once a year, every year. So it's almost like a ritual that they do every year.
Yeah. And the girls are 8 at this point. Mm-hmm. And she's just sort of watching them and reflecting and talking about superstitions and things of that nature. Yeah. And then after that, we get to the girls' point of view towards the end of the very end of the prologue, where they're talking about. I think it's mainly from Amelia's point of view. Yes. In this part,
and they're like in their bedroom. And, and they're talking about how they're not supposed to put the amulets together that they're wearing. Mm-hmm. However, Victoria kind of like decides to rebel against that and throws the amulet to her sister, mm-hmm. Amelia, and she like grabs him. Even though they're not touching, it still sparks some kind of like magical mm-hmm. essence or something, and it causes Amelia to see an aura. Mm-hmm. And they don't discuss it with each other. Like Victoria doesn't say anything about what happens to her, and if something does, she doesn't mention it at this point.
Yeah, they sort of just sweep it underneath the rug and pretend like nothing happened.
And in the distance, she hears like a hellhound. Yeah, like making noise.
So I'm interested to know how they know it's a hellhound.
Yeah, they didn't say. They just said they heard a hellhound, especially if they've never experienced it before.
Yeah, and what is a hellhound? I would have just assumed it was a wolf.
Oh yeah, a wolf or a dog or some sort of animal along that lines. But yeah, she specifies it's a hellhound in the distance.
Specifically a hellhound. And then from there, we jump 10 years into the future, where the girls are 18 now, and they're working at their family's restaurant. Well, one of them is working at the family restaurant at this time.
The other one is missing.
Yeah, so Amelia is the one that's working, and she's the more reserved, quiet twin, and Victoria is supposed to be the more outgoing one, and so she's missing, gallivanting off with boys. I think it's assumed.
Yeah, that's what they assume, that the sister believes that she's dating or seeing this guy inconspicuously. His name's Domenico. Mm-hmm. And so she's just like telling her parents that, don't worry about tonight, because they're being very superstitious, the grandma. She's like, oh, it's a bad night. It's a bad night. And she's like, make sure you wear your amulet, and make sure your sister wears your amulet. Mm-hmm. Did you see her wear her amulet before she leaves? Like, really crazy about it.
She's fluttering about, talking of superstition. And Amelia's just sort of sweeping underneath the rug. But like, it's not that big of a deal. There's a celebration, I think Saint Paul, Saint something celebration is happening in the town.
Yeah, it's like Little Saint's Day or something like that. Yeah. And it's like an ongoing thing. So they're prepping for that day, because it's supposed to be the next day.
Yeah.
So in the middle of this, her friend Antonio comes to the door to the house, which is a member of the Brotherhood, which is like a holy man. Mm-hmm. And so their family helps the Brotherhood with like meals and prep and stuff.
Yeah, they donate like a meal a year or something, and so Amelia goes over there goes with him to the monastery to prepare the meal with him, and they have some flirty back and forth banter. And we learn that this has sort of been a budding romance for a while, but then Antonio's mother passed away suddenly,
and so he went off to the Brotherhood,
and he chose the Brotherhood, which she does not like because, well, one, that means that he is pledged to God, so he can't fornicate with her.
Yeah.
But then also, she's a witch, and they're obviously against witches.
Yeah, so it's almost like they have a taboo kind of sexual tension between each other.
Yeah, And then as they're in the midst of sort of cooking up this really detailed meal that she's described to us,
awfully detailed,
in painstaking detail, they hear somebody comes in to scare them.
Yeah, and it happens to be Victoria. And then when Victoria shows herself and reveals who she is, Amelia is like, "Where have you been? Why haven't you been home?" And Victoria says something along the lines of, "Well, I summoned the devil, and we agreed to be married, and I'm betrothed to him, and I would invite you to the wedding, but it's in hell, and I don't think you want to go."
Yeah.
So, they kind of have this little thing, and Antonio ends up leaving, and so her and her sister have this discussion, and they kind of have this, banter between each other, and kind of joke about Antonio, like, "Oh, why haven't you done anything with him?" or anything like that, and it kind of just becomes a friendly sister thing, which they end up continuing back at home.
Yeah, and so they go home, and then I think Victoria goes upstairs and writes in her diary, and then that's the last kind of closing chapter for here. But then we wake up in the morning, and Victoria is acting quite weird. She's quiet. She's not really talking to anybody. She's sort of acting, I don't know, depressed, I guess. And then she asks to leave the dinner service early. And I guess Nona allows her, even though she's talking at prophecy this whole time.
Yeah.
And so she goes and leaves, and Amelia remembers that she left her basket of things back at the monastery, so she decides that she's also going to take off.
And since everybody's out celebrating the Little Saints' Day, or whatever it's called, Amelia is glad to know that she's able to do this alone without any interruptions, and she could just kind of breathe easy and take care of herself and do what she wants to do. So she goes over to the monastery, and while she's collecting the basket, she senses a magic in the air, and she kind of follows it to this long corridor that has a door ajar. So she goes to it, and she looks in, and she sees that this room is kind of old, and that it's not, it's never really used, and she could see that everything's set up, and she's candles and stuff, and she sees that there's a man standing over a body that's covered in a shroud.
And I don't know if we mentioned earlier, maybe you did, that one of the powers that she received from the amulet holding is that she sees auras. And normally for humans, the auras are lavender. But with this particular man, it's gold and black. It's glittery. It's very pretty. And he's described as tall, gentlemanly,
clean cut, he has beautiful clothes on, very expensive taste.
And she's looking at this thinking that this is a man who's lost his loved one, and he's here crying. And then suddenly this man dips his finger in some blood and tastes it, and she freaks out and comes out of the shadows with her.
With a knife that she took out of her basket. They say a knife, but in my head it's a butter knife. I see a butter knife. I don't know why.
She would, though.
Yeah, she would. So she goes and tries to attack him, and she yells, no, she doesn't yell that. She just goes over and she tells him, if you don't, or you need to stop. If you don't stop, I'm going to scream and wake everybody in the Brotherhood.
Yes.
And, this guy supposedly senses her lies because she knows that the Brotherhood's not there. And so he screams liar in a very deep tone, drops his dagger
and books it,
and runs.
Which is just really awkward.
Yeah, seriously weird for any kind of thing in the first place, but
yeah. And so she grabs it because it's this ornate golden dagger with a serpent on the hilt, and it has lavender eyes. And she takes it to protect herself in case he comes back.
She looks at the shroud itself and removes it, and she notices that it's her beloved twin sister. And it's she's just desperate. Her body is broken, and she's got blood everywhere, and her chest is ripped, and her heart is gone. And she looks so just bad. She looks horribly bad.
Yeah.
Blood is everywhere.
Blood is everywhere, and her body is warm. Yeah. So we know that this happened right away.
Yeah.
and she doesn't believe that she's dead, but then she does the dramatic fall to the floor. She sits in this blood for like a couple hours crying. Which, okay. And then she gets up, she goes home.
Well, she uses the dagger.
Oh, that's right.
Slices her hand, pours blood all over her sister, and pretty much yells that she's going to seek vengeance for her sister's death, and she's going to kill whoever, pretty much.
Which is probably black. Yeah.
Blood it's considered dark
magic, which she's not allowed to do because, well, one, Nona is just super... Well, she's super superstitious.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't allow them to do any of those, but also blood magic requires a payment for something, for whatever you're asking of it, and we don't know what those payments are ever going to be. So, but this was the first inclination of her doing something like that.
Yeah. And without even realizing she's doing it. She kind of just does this. I don't know what possessed her to do it. She just decided to do this.
Yeah.
So then she just goes home and she speaks to her grandmother. Oh, before this, she noticed the amulet's missing.
She does notice that her sister's amulet's missing, which they of course always wear.
Yeah. She goes home and she talks to Nana. And she pretty much tells her your worst fear is pretty much happened. Your twins dead. And so
and then she kind of sits in that for a couple weeks. The sadness. I don't know that I really felt the sadness in this. I mean, I get that she loses her sister, but I, as a reader, was not feeling mournful of this.
No, I wasn't.
It really. I don't know if it was the fact that it was already revealed that the sister was going to die. Like in the description, we already know that one of them's going to die. But even like the writing, I wasn't feeling these up and down emotions that she was feeling. But she was in it for like 2 weeks or so. It was kind of just
stated. It wasn't like described. It was just stated. It was just like, this is what happened.
I was emotional. I was sad.
Yeah, I was sad. I was crying. I was like, okay, yeah. So whatever. This is the beginning. We'll buy it. So then after that, she gets she's come to realize that no one really cares to find the killer. Like no one's really doing anything. In fact, she's been told several times to kind of just ignore it, avoid it, don't get into it because you're bringing attention to us and we don't want that.
Which I find interesting because even if you don't want to bring attention to yourself because you're in a time when witch hunters are prominent in this area, or I mean, that's what one of her biggest fears is witches. So I get that you don't want to involve authorities because it may unlock this secret, but like, why wouldn't you just investigate the death of your granddaughter? Because it's Nona who she's talking to.
They don't seem to care.
She does not. She just says, let it go. Just let it go. Okay.
She says at one point in time, vengeance is going to pretty much sour her. Just don't seek vengeance. Don't do that. She's pretty much steering her away from a vengeful mission. It's what Nana just keeps wanting her to stop doing.
But what I find interesting too is that this is the third murder now of a witch in this town or in this location. So nobody's asking of any of these houses. I mean, there's no.
They just believe it's witch hunters. That's what they chopped it up to. It's witch hunters, even though there's no witch hunter. They have not seen any witch hunters.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that came from, but they believe it. They just say, just stop, don't pay attention to it. So she's getting mad, she's getting aggravated with this whole thing. So she decides to take it upon herself, and she goes and finds her sister's diary that's in the floorboards. She wants to recover it, and maybe her sister will have some things in it that will give information. So she finds it, and she comes to realize that she can't open it. She can't open it like she did before. It's got some magic on it that she's not familiar with.
And in that same spot, she finds some grimoire pages that have writing on it. Has something on it. She doesn't really know what it is. And then she also finds a gambling chip that has a frog and a crown on it. And so she, even though her family doesn't specifically practice dark magic, there are people in the community whose family does practice dark magic. And one of her friends, Claudia, her childhood best friend, practices dark magic. So she goes to that family, and Claudia's aunt, Carolina, she asks her about if she's ever seen a magic or this type of magic over the diary,
and she tells her pretty much like, just do away with it because it's calling to the wicked, and to just get rid of it. But let me see what's in your satchel.
Yes, and of course she shows her the grimoire pages, and she tells Carolina tells her that those are summoning spells, and Amelia's led to believe that you can't summon a demon from hell because they're all trapped in hell, but Carolina tells her you can summon lesser demons and they can do your bidding for you. So I think Amelia starts to put pieces together that maybe her sister summoned a lesser demon, made a bargain with it of some sort, and asked it to spell her diary so that nobody could get into it.
So, I mean, at this point, she decides that she's going to go and summon this demon to find out whether or not that's what happened. And so she goes to this cave, and she uses all, like, she gets everything ready, and she tries to use animal blood. However, she spills it in the process of, like, these bats coming out. And so now she has to use what she decided was her own blood. So she does another cut of the finger or whatever, and she uses her own blood.
And the spell also asks for gold.
Yeah.
So she has no gold, so
Yeah,
she uses the
dagger.
mysterious dagger from the mysterious man.
and she says the spell, but she adds an addition to it.
She does, because she's not well versed in Latin or dark magic. She worked out that if she added a part of the spell that binds the demon to protect her for all of eternity, then she'd be safe. So that's what she does. She adds it on.
Such a smart person.
I don't discredit her for this, because I mean, it ends up not working out for her, but I understand the logic behind this. Like, okay, this demon's bound to protect me forever. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that too. It's not even that,
And so out pops a demon.
Yeah,
and it's Wrath.
It's Wrath,
the Prince of Hell.
The Prince of Hell, who is also
a Prince of Hell, I guess.
Yeah, he is a demon of war, and I would guess that at this point she I think she does realize it is Wrath, or the guy that was in the monastery that was above her sister's body. So she gets really mad and tries to attack him with his dagger, and says, "I'm going to kill you." And he says, if you're going to kill somebody, I would suggest not screaming, "I'm going to kill you," before you kill them.
Yeah, that sort of removes the element of surprise.
Yeah.
And instantly, though, we're met with, obviously she hates him.
Yeah.
But also that it feels like he hates her as well. I mean,
like,
he
already, immediately.
Yeah.
Like, immediately hates her.
He sort of just refers to her as witch.
Yeah.
Witch.
And so as she's trying to beat him up and kill him, she senses that he's feeding off of this energy. So she stops. She realizes it's not doing anything to make it worse. And so at this point, they have this conversation. She pretty much asks him things about, I think something along the lines of, I don't know if it's her sister's death, but they do go into what protection, what spell did you use? What
because a mark shows up on their hand.
Yeah, the tattoo shows up on their arm, and he really wants to know. He's like, "Tell me what did you use so that we can get rid of this? We have very few moments." And she doesn't tell him. She just refuses. And so after that, he's pretty much, "Well, since you bound me to this protection spell, I need to, like, would you accept going into my house? I need a blood oath or whatever." And she's like, "I'm not kissing you."
Yeah.
Like, immediately she jumps to that. "I'm not kissing you." And he's like, "You could be I would never kiss you. I can't be tempted to kiss you.
You could be the last creature on earth."
Yeah. And it's like, why would you jump? Whatever.
Well, it's these stories that she's been told from Nona about who the Dark Princes are, and that their kiss is so...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's so intoxicating that one taste of it, you'll crave it for your lifetime.
She jumped to the conclusion that a kiss is what starts the bargain.
Why would you say that out loud? If that's your conclusion, I would keep that internally to myself.
Why would you just ask, what is it that you want? Why do you immediately jump to, "I'm not kissing
I'm not kidding. How embarrassing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's because I've got no shirt on.
But it's... She never learns her lesson, though, because she continuously does things like this where she doesn't think before she speaks.
No.
But he does say this wonderful line in here where he says, like, "Congratulations, witch, you have my full attention now. I hope you're ready for the consequences."
Yeah.
Which I just love.
Yeah.
So she summons him, and he's bound there for 3 days in the summoning circle. For whatever reason, I don't quite understand what the 3 days is, because after that, he's able to walk freely with her as his anchor. And
so I think at this point, after she leaves there, she's kind of like walking around the marketplace, and she sees her best friend. She gives her the diary to kind of like look it over to find out how to open the diary. And her best friend says, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that." And so while she's walking around the marketplace, she ends up meeting or sensing more magic, and she ends up running into Envy.
Yes,
Wrath's brother.
And then also right before she sees Envy, she hears these random voices of something
leading her somewhere, or telling, like, just saying
somebody's
stuff,
coming,
like memories,
he's here, he's coming to collect, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then out pops Envy.
Yeah.
And the meeting here is really interesting. I like that immediately she's kind of overtaken with these feelings of jealousy at how much power that these demons have, that how come she doesn't have this amount of power.
Yeah.
And then he starts to kind of have her take the dagger that she's carrying, because she's still carrying Wrath's dagger, and like put it to her chest and about to stab her.
Yeah.
But then the mark that's on her arm sort of snaps her out of the trance, like some electrical pulse or something snaps her out of it. And then they also have a very interesting conversation, her and Envy.
Yeah, he looks at her and he pretty much tells her, like, he sees the dagger, he sees a tattoo, and he realizes, obviously, that's her brother, his brother's. And so she pretty much says something along the lines of, is this where she says, you'll take my heart?
Yes.
Yeah, she says you'll take my heart, and he goes, no, but I imagine you'll give it to my brother.
Which I'm assuming is Wrath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we assume it's Wrath at this point.
At some point you're giving it to my brother or something.
And so he asks, hey, I collect things, will you be part of my house? Which is a very, very similar theme in this book when she meets Prince of Hell. And she turns him down as well. So yeah, she does not want to align herself with House Envy either. So he just pretty much lets her go.
Yeah, unscathed.
Yeah.
He comes in like a demon and then leaves her unscathed. Yeah. And then I think she just heads home after that.
Yeah, I believe she just goes home, and at this point in time, her family is just being more superstitious and stuff like that, and pretty much telling her that she needs to stop and all that. So what she ends up doing is she goes and looks through her things again, and she goes and she takes the greed
the gambling chip.
Yeah. And as she's walking around the marketplace again, she's asking people, hey, where did this come from? Did you see this before? And they're telling her it's a traveling like casino or something like that. And so she's like, okay, so her magic abilities happen to
she gets those good magical vibes.
Yeah, sends her to this place, and she sees the matching symbol, so she takes it and she pushes it up against the door, and it opens and clicks, and so she goes inside.
Where she sees, she has an interesting interaction with is it Domenico? I don't know his name.
No, that's the senior. Yeah.
His dad.
Yeah.
Has an interesting interaction with him where he misremembers her. He calls her Vittoria. She says, no, I'm Amelia. He's too drunk, but he does say something interesting.
Yeah, he says, he's like, go get me my food or whatever, and he says, I'm feeling a bit wolfish.
Which is a little telling.
Yeah.
But then, anyways, because she had announced herself as Amelia and not Vittoria, she kind of gets skirted off by these two demons that were guarding a door. She is there looking for greed though. Yeah. So, and I think she spots them guarding the door, and they end up coming to her and taking her in to go see Greed, who Greed apparently was not aware that there was an Amelia. He only thought that there was a Vittoria.
Yeah. And so when he senses her, he pretty much is like, oh, this is interesting. How about I want your amulet? I'll trade you for this. And he shows her this other amulet for protection, and she says, well, how do I know my sister gave you hers? And he told her, well, it's with this viper demon that's been summoned.
Yeah.
That's guarding it, and will only be able to get it if it was given, if the viper wants to give it up.
If it wants, yeah. So we don't know who summoned this snake viper.
They don't say.
No, so it's down there, but she knows that Greed and her sister have met.
Yeah, and they're kind of like not best friends or anything like that, but she's like working with him. She's been there several times.
Yeah, they have some sort of alliance going on.
Yeah. Also, during this conversation, this is when trickery happens, apparently. Amelia supposedly has this grand trickery thing that she does where she pretty much says, I need you to answer questions, and Greed is like, no, I'm not answering them about payment. And she goes, well, never mind. And he's like, well, I'll answer one question for you. And so she goes, tell me about the Horn of Hades. And he pretty much tells her it locks and unlocks the gates of hell. And then she gets that answer, and then she goes on to, how do I open this book that has some kind of spell on, like a dark spell? And he tells her, oh no, I already answered your question. And she goes, nope, that was the only question I asked. It's like, come
So
on.
sly.
So, fucking sleight of wording that she decided that she was going to
She tricked
him.
a prince of hell.
Yeah.
She's so smart. I didn't even realize that she had tricked him. I had to reread. I was like, wait, what did you do? And she mentions it then. And then she mentions it, I think, internally to herself. She's like proud that she tricks this prince. And then also Envy reinforces it. Like, oh, it's really hard to trick a prince of hell.
That later.
I don't
understand. So ridiculous.
I hate this whole scene right
yeah.
here.
So like anyway, she asks the question of how do I open this thing, and he goes, okay, well, I guess I'll answer it then. But he gives her a very like short answer. Is you have to sacrifice a bit of yourself.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's not an answer.
Yeah. Which they consistently do.
He's like, yeah, it is an answer.
Give non-answers.
Yeah.
I like this a part in here when he's trying to persuade her to take the protection amulet in replace of her amulet. He says to her that he's doing this because he wants to call in this favor later down the line, which leads me to think that maybe she's important. I mean, obviously she's the main character, so she's important, but the idea that maybe she's going to have an important standing, and where a bargain with her was going to pay off for Prince of Hell later down the line. I thought that was pretty interesting. But after he ask her to join his house too,
and she also says no.
So this is the third Prince of Hell that she's met and walked away from completely unscathed.
Yeah,
like denied them in every way, and was kind of a sassy like little brat a little bit.
Yeah, she was.
And she has no repercussions for any of that.
So like after she finished talking to Greed and Envy, at some point in time she does go back and she talks to Claudia to say, oh yeah, I summoned Wrath, but I didn't summon Envy. I don't think she met Greed at the time, but then she goes, she tells her about the two princes and how it's like, this isn't a good time, you need to give me back the diary. So she does get back the diary, and then speaking with Greed, she wants to open it.
Yes.
But before that, I don't think she opens it. Does she open it yet? I think she does.
Yeah,
she does open it.
She opens it
right after she talks to Greed.
Right after she talks to Greed.
So she goes back and she opens it, and she talks to Greed, and so she opens it and she finds out that her sister managed to go to the beach and find something, and that her sister can hear magical items are talking to her. Yes.
So we know that Amelia's power from the interaction of holding both the amulets manifested in the fact that she can see auras of people. We didn't know what Victoria's is, but come to find out, it's that she can hear magical things. And so she was hearing something speak to her on the beach, and she dug it up, and we don't know what it is at this point. But we know that she did dig it up.
Yeah.
She found it.
And she found out under this whole thing too, that she found out the amulets were actually the Horn of Hades.
Yes.
So when she figured that out, she realized that, oh shoot, we got the Horn of Hades. She went down to Nana and just talked to her about it. She's like, what's up with this? Why do we have the Horn of Hades? And she pretty much tells her that that they were twins to break a curse. And I don't remember if she said anything other else that was important.
No, I don't think that.
Oh yeah, the princes are in hell.
Yeah,
they're locked in hell. She just pretty much talks about the princes being in hell. Nothing else really important at that time.
Yeah.
No. So like after that, I believe she goes to Wrath.
Well, Nona. So as they're talking about this,
yes.
As they're talking about,
I always forget about this one.
What the Horn of Hades is. An invisible demon, which we know is the Umber demon, comes and slices Nona's throat
with the house dagger of
Wrath. The house dagger and of Wrath, and takes the amulet. So takes Amelia's amulet.
Yes.
And then Nona falls unconscious.
Yeah, and the mom,
she's mending.
Her mom helps mend her, and they pretty much go and tell her, hey, just like don't worry about Nana, we'll take care of her. So that's when she goes see Wrath.
Yeah, she talks to Wrath about
the Viper,
because she needs to go, because now she wants her sister's amulet because she doesn't have her amulet. She knows the amulet's with the snake demon,
the Viper,
the Viper a day. Demon. I don't know what it's called.
Viper a day. Yeah.
And so in this conversation with Wrath, he says only somebody who's stupid enough to go down there to get it would get it. Like,
yeah, like it's pretty much you're just a suicide mission. Is pretty much what he says. But he's like, but if you're gonna go do it, I would use a sleeping spell.
Put it to sleep, maybe. And he also tells her, I'm not going to come get you if you fall. And because this is coincidentally right around the time that his 3 days are up for his summoning probation. And so, of course, she goes down there.
Yeah. She goes, it's under the cathedral tunnels. So she goes down there and she sees a very large snake.
Yeah. She has no problem finding this, by the way.
She immediately.
We're there. Like, we're just there with her looking at it.
I don't know if she didn't find it before. She just like, as soon as she heard about it, I don't know, she was going to go down there. She just appeared down there too, was looking at it. Yeah. Easy.
Here I am. This big snake, and she puts it to sleep with a sleeping spell. Now, she does say the thing about sleeping spells is that they
don't last long.
They don't last, and anything that would normally wake it up would wake it up.
Yeah.
I don't know how the sound of a thin chain.
A very thin chain. Because, like, you got to remember, these are on the girls since they were 8 years old, even earlier. And so, how big is this thing?
And okay, and I'm imagining like a little, and now it says it's a horn, so in my head, I'm thinking a cornucopia. I don't know why that's the style of it, but in my head, that's what I'm picturing, and I'm picturing it like this big.
It's a seashell for me. It's like
on a little chain. Though we do find out it's the horn. So it's the horn of Hades. It's still it's a cornucopia. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
it's this big.
It's a seashell.
And so she takes it. I don't know. Is it on a rock or something?
It was like somewhere near it. So she like tiptoes over there because she's so quiet. Because none of that woke him up.
None of that woke the demon up. No.
The picking up and the movement of the chain.
And I'm imagining this like a nice.
Yeah,
silver chain.
I mean, maybe it just grows.
Maybe it's big and clunky. I don't know. Wakes the demon up. Okay, and then it comes charging at her, of course, and so she grabs some dirt and throws it in its eyes. That really pisses it off. So it comes back at her, and again, okay. So the question of size comes up. How big is this? Because I'm imagining this demon, like the head. I'm at like 2 eyes here, like a nose. Like I'm imagining a big demon. And somehow
a snake.
Yeah, and so somehow she takes this amulet, the horn of it, and stabs it through the eye, all the way to the brain, and kills it. Yeah, I don't understand. How big is this? Because
it's a third boob. Because like you put it inside here.
She's like, putting it in her bosom constantly. So you're telling me this? How big?
Yeah.
Tell me when. How big is this?
So yeah, they're always having, and they're like 8 years old too when they have it. So like, how big is this thing?
It's huge. I don't get it. So somehow she kills this thing with this. I mean, you have to have, it has to at least be,
you gotta be able to grip it.
You gotta be able to grip it.
Stab it. So
stab it through the eye.
Who knows?
So this, who knows how big this is.
Yeah.
Of course it bites her.
Yeah.
She's passing out,
like dying as she's getting through the tunnel.
She's crawling through.
Which is funny because the tunnel, how she got there is not really spoke about, but how she leaves is talked about more because she's like dragging herself through it, and she's like crawling to the door or gate or whatever, and then immediately Wrath appears out of nowhere and just starts cursing up a storm. She even says she would be laughing if she could. From his creative cursing. Mm-hmm. So he just pretty much yells at her, and he picks her up, and he takes her to what I believe is possibly a palace. The palace they have.
Yeah, somewhere to save
I
her.
keep forgetting whether or not that already have occurred, if they've already met at a palace that he
I don't think so, but I do think that he's already maybe that's what he was doing. Like he busted out.
He was gone for somewhere, so he probably had already gotten the palace.
Scoped it out, grabbed her, took her back. Though I do want to say this snake part I absolutely hate. This is the first moment of action that we get in this book, and there's nothing here. Like I felt nothing. No. I wasn't scared. I wasn't anxious. She literally appeared there. Did her little spell. There was no description on that. It was just like, here, spell, walk, woke it up. It was 15 seconds of read time.
I think we explained it more than the book did.
We did. Yeah, we did. I hated this part so much. But then and as predicted, she got bit. He gets her, he saves her. Yeah. And then he goes and does this bizarre
like rebirthing thing. In the process though, he does speak to somebody. There is somebody there. Yeah. She doesn't know who. And so, he does this weird spell that he's like holding her in the bathtub in some weird way. I just can't figure out, but like he's like
her
licking
neck.
on her neck and doing these weird things, and they're both naked, and he's holding her, and like she's like in and out of consciousness, so she's kind of like trying to figure out what's going on, and he says a few things to her that she's not understanding or hearing, and then he does say one thing. Well, he does ask for permission. He goes,
yeah.
"Can I do this to save your life, or can I do something to save your life?" He doesn't specify, and she just like kind of nods, and then he goes into action, like bam, takes off her clothes, puts her in the bathtub, holds onto her,
straddles her, licks her neck,
weird shit, and then.
But he does say before that, "Live long enough to hate me for this," which I like. So what we do? I'm so unclear about what happened here, but also so is Amelia. So but she does think that it's her birthing spell. She also does mention a couple times that she believes he gave up some of his power to save her because maybe that's part of the rebirthing spell that she understands it to be. But yeah, so he ends up saving her. She's there for a couple days recovering.
And while she's there, he does ask her about, because she says, I keep hearing things, and he explains to her that it's an Umber demon that's there for assassin. Like, he's her assassin, like they're assassins, but he doesn't say for who, and she keeps asking questions, and then they get mad at each other during this time. And so when they get mad at each other, she just like says a spell and takes him, and then just sends him away.
Yeah, so out of the kindness of his heart, he saves her. And then she gets mad the first time and then summons him back. She doesn't even know where she summoned him back to. She just walks up and just sends him away.
Yep. He has no idea. Like, and like he looks like shocked, surprised, and betrayed when she does that. And she doesn't even know where she sends him. So like immediately after she does it, she gets kind of upset.
Yeah.
And she's just like, where did he go?
And she thinks the two possibilities are it could have been hell, or she could have sent him back to the summoning circle. Yeah. So she goes to the cave. Turns out she did send him back to the summoning circle, and I think she walks in on him, and he's like sitting on the floor with his back up against the wall.
And he's like, "If you're going to ask me questions, you need to play nice this time."
Yeah.
So because that's pretty much what always gets them angry, is that she's always asking stupid questions. So she does. She asks more stupid questions.
She's got toddler energy.
Yeah, but like before that though, she does. Before that though, he's asking. He's like, "What's wrong with you, witch?" Because like he realizes that she's just being angry, and she pretty much goes on her little temper tantrum of, well, this happened to me, my family got attacked, and that's pretty much when he goes, oh, it must have been an Umber demon. So like that's pretty much when he resigns to telling her that.
And this is when they also agree. So they have a conversation about sort of what's going on. Witches are dying. He kind of why he's there, which is he's here to help bring his brother Pride a wife. So these witches, the link between all of these witches who are dying is that they have made bargains with Pride, who she believes to be the devil himself, the main devil. And Wrath's job is to take these witches back down to Pride. So that's why he's essentially there. But then somebody's killing these witches, so he's not able to fulfill his side, and also bringing these witches or Pride marrying these witches is going to break some curse, and so they have that conversation, and so
like a mutual thing that they're working towards now.
Yeah, so
her vengeance and him.
Yeah, so Wrath has a vested interest in figuring out these murders. She obviously has an interest in figuring out these murders because of her sister, and so they do agree to work together. I think does he ask her again to do a blood oath?
No, he doesn't. He though does.
He does. That's right. He does.
He says, "I vow not to take any witch's life, and while I'm here, I will not force anybody down to hell." So that's interesting too, because he's saying he's not forcing anybody. He's not doing anything, but he still has to do his side of his bargain to Pride, which is to bring a wife. He's just not forcing anybody. So they have to agree to it. So
he's simply an escort. Is what he's doing. And so at that point their alliance forms, and they become, I mean, they're not,
they work together.
They're not friends, as Amelia will continuously remind you. No. They are not friends, but they have, goals are aligned. So then after that,
they go to the marketplace. He's wearing a crappy shirt.
Because he says to her that he has information on who the next name is, and they go to talk to the town gossip. But also, she did buy him a shirt at one point because, of course, he materialized shirtless.
Yeah.
When she summoned
really
him.
hates it so much.
Yeah, she needed to cover him up, so she bought him a cheap tattered shirt. Though she said it wasn't cheap, but yeah, I don't know why this is such an ordeal with him. Why he didn't wear the shirt, and two, why he needed to bring the shirt back and upgrade it. I thought that was really weird.
Well, they only went there to talk to the town gossip, who is the same guy.
Yeah,
and he didn't realize it until he got there. Then he's like, she told him, she's like, oh yeah, the town gossip is the guy who sold the shirt. He's like, so, which is actually kind of funny thing he says, because he's like, oh, so not only am I you taking me to go investigate a murder, but you're having me do one.
Yeah, that is.
And I was like, oh, that's not gonna be funny, because he's gonna go kill the guy that gave the shirt.
He ends up trading his shirt in.
Yeah,
he gets a respectable shirt that he can wear.
Yeah,
and they get either the name or the location. I don't remember.
But then they go, well, actually, not that point. They just kind of like hear about the other murders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then he goes over and talks to one of the messengers, because at this time another girl, I believe, is murdered.
Yeah, and we understand at this point too that the messenger, Wrath believes that the messenger so Pride gives a name to a messenger, and that messenger gives that name to Wrath. And so Wrath believes that middleman is giving names to somebody else. So they're going there to interrogate him and see who he's giving this information to, because obviously that's the person that's murdering.
Yeah.
So they do meet that messenger, and this is an interesting scene because we finally get to see, I think, a little taste of Wrath's power. Which we know is a power that sort of sneaks up and causes people to experience those sins. So with Amelia, it was envy, and she felt that those envious thoughts when she was upset that the demons have more power than her. So it's not. So we do get a taste of Wrath using that up against the messenger and causing him to get super mad. He spits in Wrath's face
and gives him all this information out of spite.
Mm-hmm.
And so while he's doing that, but he's still withholding.
Yeah.
He's not giving out everything. He's giving out enough. And so what's causing Amelia to get upset, she's like, we don't got much time. I'm not going to deal with this. So she goes up on the messenger and forces him to tell the truth by using a truth telling.
Also, I think she even says that she thinks that Wrath is going to kill him before they get any information.
Yeah, but that wasn't what was going
to happen. That was not what was going to happen. She just thinks that she knows better and she's going to step in.
And so she does, and it causes him to actually speak some truth, but he starts to lose his memory.
Yes, because of course we know with black magic it takes something, and so it took this messenger's memory. And Wrath, who is big on choice, was displeased with the fact that she took his choice away, and kind of scolded her and said, "Hey, I would have got this information without your magic."
Yeah.
And he says something else.
He just pretty much tells her that it'll take a bit of your soul. He'll get his memories back eventually, but it'll take a bit of your soul, and you'll never get that back. So he ends up assisting the messenger by giving him some money and telling him who he is and where he lives, and sends him on his way. But in the process of that, Amelia starts to realize that he had more control over his power, and Amelia didn't. And so she felt like he was superior in that manner, and she felt ashamed of herself, because if a demon of hell can refrain from doing horrible things, and here she is, she did this,
of course, because she has some idea of who these demons are and how they act and their mannerisms and things like that, but as we've come to find out, that's not really her idea of how demons are isn't really true. So we know that I wasn't shocked that he was able to restrain his powers.
No.
But apparently she was. But then after that meeting with the messenger, we go and meet with sort of Wrath's second hand, his side man. Though he tells her to sit and wait, and he's gonna go talk to him, and so they talk, and she's out of earshot, so she can't quite hear what they're saying, but she hears enough that she knows they're talking about her. And I think Anir's saying, and his name is Anir, I think Anir's saying something along the lines of, well, like, just complete it. We need to prepare for war. Your house will be more powerful. And so she walks in and says, and just kind of demands to know what they're talking about. And Anir casually lets out the secret that your marriage bond. You need to complete your marriage bond.
Yeah, which is really devastating to Amelia, because she's just like, how dare you keep this secret from me and all this other stuff. But at the same time, it's like she's the one who did it. And she thought she was so brilliant when she did it at the time.
Because because the link is that it was the piece of Latin or whatever that she added to the end of her spell to bind him.
And she thought she was a genius for that. She was a genius. Yeah.
I think this part is so funny. I laugh out loud at this part every time because I just think it's almost what she gets for being.
Yeah.
I love it. I thought this was brilliant and so smart to do, to have this, because at the beginning I was buying it. Yeah, great. That's a great idea. You should probably bind him for life. And then to see how it turned out into a marriage bond, I thought was hilarious. I love this. I thought it was really clever to do it this way. So
yeah, I like that. I like that her marriage bond was being like put in her face. Mm-hmm. And so Anir was telling her, I can't remember what he said, but Anir was pretty much telling him that like, hey, he needs to do this so the power could come back to our house, and all that other stuff. I think we there was one thing we needed to talk about though. I think we missed was that at one point in time, Wrath and Amelia do go to the monastery to investigate their sisters, like see if he aligned, if somebody was summoned.
That's right. And this was after they made their alliance before they met the messenger.
Yes. Yeah. So they like she goes there and she goes and finds out. And they have a whole discussion of, because Wrath just needs to see if he's at the area, he could sense whether or not a demon from a certain house was there.
Yeah, he can sense if one of his brothers was there.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's the whole point of Wrath going to all these murders as well, is so that he could sense if one of his brothers took part in the murder. And so while he's there at Victoria's like area, you know, he himself said he didn't taste any blood. Anything, because that's why he tasted the blood, was to see if she aligned herself with anybody's house, but he couldn't sense that at the time. So he was there trying to pick up any pieces or anything in the area again while he was with Amelia. And at the time, Antonio comes in.
Yeah, but also while they're there, she can see remnants of pink and black wax that's on the ground in a sort of summoning circle. She can also see or smell time. And Wrath says that those are things that are used to summon, or those are things that are aligned with House Greed, but that it wasn't the brother that was summoned, but it could have been a lesser demon. But also she accuses him of possibly staging this to make it appear this way, which I thought was...
What are you doing? She has wild accusations the whole time.
She's throwing them out.
She just goes everywhere with these wild accusations.
They enter her mind. There's no spinning about. It's just... enter her mind, straight out her mouth.
Yeah. So Antonio pops up and he pretty much gets jealous, and Wrath says something along the lines of, what are you to my Amelia, or something like that.
Yeah, they have a little moment there where they're testing each other's like
their little manhood type
thing.
So Amelia just pretty much says, this is my friend Samuel, and kind of scoots Antonio away. And when she comes back, Wrath is like, why did you call me that? Don't ever call me that again. Don't ever call me that again. And she goes, well, it's the angel of death, I think, or something like that. And he goes, I'm no angel.
he was very offended by the name.
He was super offended by that name. And so
okay, he's not an angel. That's fine. That did happen before they right after their alliance
and then meeting. And then after that they
met with the messenger. We meet Anir. We learn about the marriage bond. She's obviously upset about the marriage bond. She storms off. She goes to take herself out to a restaurant to eat. She
tells her, don't follow me, leave me alone. And then like she sits down at the restaurant and she's like surprised he just sat down. And she's like, how did you find me? And he just like looks at her tattoo. And so she realizes, oh, it's the marriage bond.
Yeah, we can track each other. Well, he could track her through it anyways. Yeah. And they're also having a conversation about demons she should be scared of. And he's describing this demon with like a pig head and horns.
Yeah, like and these weird teeth.
Yeah, and then she hears it behind her or something like that, or sees it behind him. And then this girl takes off running. I don't know why we're running. What?
She just runs. Wrath even tells her, don't run. And she just goes running like a crazy maniac. Like through all the streets, through this...
She says she doesn't hear it. She didn't hear him say it before it was already late. But why were you running from the one demon that you know is gonna take him down? I don't know why. I don't know. Anyways,
she runs. And Wrath ends up killing it. And so she realizes that when she gets, she looks around, she finds out that this demon pretty much ran her to this area with this weird I don't know, image, crest design, whatever, that's holding a paw print,
A paw
holding what she believes to be is a
wheat, but it turns out to be fennel.
Yeah.
And they go into the door to check it out. She's trying to see if she gets her magical vibes from anything in there. She's not.
She also believes that the symbol used to be a symbol of well-known shape-shifting.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, she thinks that this may have something to do with the stories of shape-shifting, where that they assisted or were enemies. I can't remember. They had something with um like being able to protect or fight off something.
That's right.
And so she was saying that, you know, being that a war is possibly coming, she believed that these shapeshifters might be a part of the possible war in the near future. But she doesn't go into any more detail other than that. And she realizes that this building is vacant and nothing. She may have thought it has something to do with her sister's diary, but she didn't see anything of importance. Didn't look like it was even used.
And the only other mention of shapeshifters too is in the beginning when Antonio is talking about how he goes, or he had to leave to go to this other village because they're talking about seeing shapeshifters. And I think that's the only taste of shapeshifting we get in here, and it's never really mentioned again. But so after she doesn't get any magical vibes from the room, they go home, or she goes home.
Yeah, she goes home.
And I believe that she goes home and through the bottom of the house, everything's fine, comes up to her room, it's disheveled, it's a complete mess. Victoria's journal has been stolen.
Yeah. And so at that point, she's like, I'm putting my family in danger. I don't want to be here anymore. Mm-hmm. So she writes her family a note and she heads out.
Yep.
And she goes and moves in with Wrath.
With Wrath, who had already found the house, showed her the house, propositioned her to come move in. She said no. And also during this time, she, I think it's important because she's learning along the way all the things that Nona had taught her about what these demons are has been a lie, right? So she goes out to the house and she sees that Wrath is perched in the sun, sprawled out, and in her opinion, or in her knowledge anyways, demons are not allowed to be in the sun and they drink blood.
Yeah.
So I don't know why she verbalizes this. She says to him, how are you standing in the sun? Or you can't be in the sun. And he's like, everything you've been told about us is a lie. So I think that's an interesting point because consistently throughout this book, he's sort of telling her again and again. But then, so she moves in with the house. She moves into the house with him.
Yeah, and she asks him, he asks, are we doing anything? And she goes, no. And he's like, well, we have a meeting with a possible another messenger or witch that is agreeing to marry Pride. So they're supposed to meet, and I believe it's at dusk. It's either, I think it's in the evening. I don't think it's in the morning because there's supposed to be a party.
Yeah.
So like, she realizes, okay, yeah. So she goes and somehow takes a nap. When she goes into this room and she realizes that her bedroom looks very something like she likes. Everything is like she likes. He plans everything else, that's stuff like she already would like and know.
He knows her so well.
Yeah, and she's really confused. Anyways.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. So she goes, it's so confusing. So she goes, takes a nap, and she wakes up and realizes that he's gone, and she's just all mad. Oh, this demon leaves me, blah blah blah.
Yeah, because they were supposed to be working together.
Yeah. So she leaves anyways, and she goes out and about into town and stuff like that, and her magic is calling her to a specific area on the beach. And so as she's on this beach, she's being like kind of seduced, and she's walking through the sand and she's feeling all these emotions let go, and she's so enticed by whatever's happening that she just seems to like let herself go. Mm-hmm. And as she's doing this, she's trying to dance seductively, and she's feeling hands on her, but she doesn't see any hands. Mm-hmm. She's going through these emotions of just pure lust and pure like enjoyment and letting everything free. And in the process of this, she's looking off in the distance and she's seeing Wrath just coming at her so angrily, but she's just like, I don't care, I want him on me. And she's going through this process, and as she's doing this, like, he's coming over and he's like, we need to leave now, blah 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 blah, and she's just trying to like take off his clothes and all this other stuff, and it's getting too crazy to the point where like she's putting her hand on his mouth and she's like licking it, like biting on it, and he's like enjoying it, whatever. And she's like, "What? You don't want to see me naked?" And he's like, "I've already seen you naked, but like we could take off clothes at home if you would like, or we could discuss this later. But you're under my brother's spell." And so immediately that's when Lust like introduces himself to her, and she is immediately lustful towards him, and she wants to be with him, and but Wrath is like kind of grabbing her back, and immediately her lust now turns to Wrath, which Lust himself is starting to be like, oh, that's interesting that she was being overpowered with her lust towards Wrath immediately, like it was no issue, like that's her lust towards him. And so at that point, Lust tells Wrath, hey, you're needed home. And he's like, I'm not going home. And he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll entertain your pet or your.
I've got stories to tell her.
Stories of villains and heroes and gods and goddesses and
love,
memory stolen or something like that. So
super interesting.
Yeah, and Wrath was very like, no, stop, don't tell her any of this. Like, stop talking. And so he like stabs him.
Yep.
Oh, and also before that, he says this is practice for the feast of the wolf.
Yeah.
He says some very interesting things.
He does.
I think he says the most interesting things out of everybody, out of all the brothers. I really do.
Yeah,
in a very short period of time.
His reaction makes you think, or their interaction makes you think that, like clearly he knows a little bit more, maybe about her, about him.
Yeah.
He has some secrets to spill.
Yeah, and no one else is like wanting to tell her anything, but Lust seems like he really wants.
Yeah, Lust was ready.
Yeah, and Wrath was not having it, so Wrath stabbed him back to hell.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Is he gonna die?" And he goes, "No," but immediately her lust spell drops from Amelia, and she just goes into what you would think of as an emotional withdrawal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after she goes through the emotional withdrawal, it's like she's just super depressed, almost like all the emotions that she had before, prior to feeling this immense pleasure is like the immense pleasure is stripped from her, and now all of her emotions that she had of vengeance, of fury, of pain is just bombarded back to her tenfold. And so she drops to her knees, and Wrath just takes her, picks her up, and pretty much nurses her back to health in the palace for like weeks on end.
Yeah, and he does a bath for her where it's like a goddess bath or something.
Yeah, because he's fed up with her shit.
Yeah, because like I get it. Okay, you had a really high and then it crashed really hard, but like for weeks, I don't know. But so he does. I was fed up with her shit. I'm glad he was fed up with her shit. So he draws her a bath, and he has to get like the elements from all, earth, wind, all of that. But he also adds Plumera and Orange, which are like her special things, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So just like another level of how he cares a little bit more deeply for her than maybe he's letting on, which he's using with his actions to consistently show her.
Yeah, all the time. He's always showing her. Like, he's done so much shit for her already.
Yeah.
We're
all tired of her shit.
Yeah, I would have stopped.
So he nurses her back to health. She does her goddess bath. She feels rejuvenated. They're having a conversation, or they're playing cards.
Yeah.
They're having a conversation about, just sort of the fact that it was sort of easy for Wrath, or for Lust to come in and take over her emotions and sort of control her. And he's trying to impart some knowledge on her about, we princes of hell, we're really good at adapting. That's how, we don't know everything, but we adapt, and that's how we stay who we are.
Yeah.
You need to be better at adapting. You need to get your emotions in check. You need to do all these things. And her response is, the epitome of who she is just to say to him, I think you like hearing the sound of your own voice. I think you just like to talk.
She likes to talk.
She's
the one doing most of the talking, and she doesn't even know how to answer the right questions at the right time.
Yeah, and he's also telling her about everybody has choice, and you need to make the right choices to be the victor and not the victim. And she's like, did my sister have a choice?
Oh my god.
Like, you're such a child.
Yes, your sister had a choice. She freely chose to do the thing she did. That's why she ended up where she did. Did your sister make a deal with the devil? I mean, that was her choice. So it's just, this scene right here drives me insane, because I hate Amelia so much, and this is the epitome of my hate for Amelia, is that she's just such a child in every one of her reactions with Wrath. It's always emotion. It's always just, he's imparting some great knowledge on how you should maybe change your perspective on things, and she just instantly shuts him down with nonsensical conversation, like, oh, you just like hearing the sound of your voice. Like, what sort of rebuttal is that when somebody's trying to say to you, hey, you should probably get your emotions under control. Hey, maybe you should probably think differently. He even tells her, he's like, all you have to do is be nudged a little bit, and you give away all your secrets, all your information. He's just telling her, like, you shouldn't do that. You should control yourself. because people will be able to manipulate you
Yeah, that
based off your emotions. Because what did he say about how what won't you do or give to get your vengeance for your sister or
yeah.
something like that?
He
It's
says
like,
to her that you shouldn't tell somebody all that you covet or all that you want, everything that drives you. And she's
yeah,
like, well, you know everything that drives me. And he says, yeah, and that was a mistake on your part,
yeah,
because what wouldn't you give me now for your biggest desire?
yeah.
There is no price too high. And what is her response to this? She
Oh,
lies.
yeah,
She pokes him and she says, you don't know my
Yeah.
true.
even though he
what
knows when
drives
she's
me.
lying, and she knows it.
He
knows
calls her
it's
out
true.
every time. You're lying to me. You're lying to me. I can sense every lie that you tell me. And
Yeah.
still she lies to his face. And what drives me crazy is like, why are you lying? He's
Yeah.
literally telling you, this was a big mistake that you made with me. You're lucky it was with me.
Yeah.
Don't do it again. Don't repeat it, because now I can demand anything of you and you're going to give it to me. And her response.
Her response is ridiculous. It's like all these are child responses, immature person. And the thing is, it's like, sure, okay, you want to pin her as this emotional, immature person. She should know that's what she is, and she doesn't. She thinks she's this all-knowing person with all this information, that she's better than people who are princes of sin. Yeah, it just
They
drives me
rule
crazy.
entire houses, like
Of sin.
royal
Yeah.
houses, and I don't know, who knows how old they are too with all their
Yeah,
experience.
you don't.
But I think that's the biggest problem with Amelia, and it cascades here for me,
Yeah.
is the fact that in every aspect there's no change for her. So in this aspect, there's not, when she's talking about the murder, there's no change, and even as she's fed more information, she's still lying on old theories. Oh, it's the witch hunter. We're 25 chapters in, she's still talking about witch hunters.
Yeah.
She has all the new information of, a human couldn't have ripped the heart out of her sister, but still we're on the last chapters and she's still talking about witch hunters.
Yeah, there's no growth.
There's never growth.
There's never growth. And she just is resigned to that. She's fine with knowing what she knows and not growing from it. She just wants to keep on with these same three theories. She keeps her growth as a person, not just the theories, but her knowledge of demons, her knowledge of, like, even though when she finds out she's faced with her grandma like lying to her and telling her, or not even lying, just not giving her correct information, she's resigned to being like, nope, this is what I know.
This is, and I'm going to verbalize it every time.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak
it
like
an
fact.
idiot. I'm gonna look like an idiot to everybody, and that's fine. I'm gonna keep doing that.
I mean,
like, fine,
whatever,
okay,
do you, Amelia?
Yeah.
But and I think, yeah, okay, we can understand that she's 18. I can get that she's 18. She's dumb. She's not emotionally mature yet, but there's no give in any of the aspects. She's still resigned to thinking that everything Nona says was true, even though Wrath keeps proving to her it's not true. And then, of course, you have the scene, you have the theories. It's all encompassing of, Amelia, you're just annoying. You're just dumb. You don't mature. You don't think outside of the box. You never change your perspective on anything. And you're just a child. Drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So
after,
rant aside.
Yeah. So after, he gets her pretty much back to health or whatever, he pretty much tells her, don't leave tonight. Just stay in the house. And she's like, what? I don't have free will. That's the thing. She keeps bickering about him. Like, I don't have free will. I don't have free will. Didn't you tell me I have free will? So anyways, she has a free will. Just keep fucking talking. That's what she's been doing. So anyways, he tells her not to leave. He leaves. And she's just like, why is he leaving all well dressed and everything like that? So she's even feeling a tinge of jealousy at this point. So he leaves, and she decides she's gonna fucking leave. So while she's leaving, she finds Claudia at the monastery, like clawing at the ground and speaking pretty much in like vision talk.
Yeah.
And just going on rants and raves about things. And so while she's doing this, she's being loud.
Yeah.
And she says certain things that kind of just like pique Amelia's like, what is this? What does this mean? But like, she says something along the lines of how the King of Sin is going to claim her.
She says that the Angel of Death has claimed her, or has already claimed her, and she's mourning her. She's mourning Amelia because the Angel of Death has already claimed you. So I don't think we're going to know exactly what her prophecies mean until
later, because they're all over the place. It's very confusing. It doesn't relate to anything right of now, and it's very confusing. So anyway, she speaks so loud that the Brotherhood starts to come out of the monastery, and Antonio is the one that comes over and helps. It's important to note too that Claudia at one point does put a spell over over Amelia's family home. And so I think that was the time when she asked about the diary. They kind of had that conversation.
When she took the diary back from Claudia, she asked her to protect the home.
So Amelia convinces Antonio to bring Claudia back to Emilia's house because that's where the protection's was. So he heads out there, and as she's heading out there, she kind of just starts walking away from the monastery, and she's met by a vampire prince, Alexei.
Yeah.
And Alexei tells her, like, hey, it's a beautiful night to go to sea and vine or something like that. And you can see Envy or whatever. And she's like, nope, I think I'm going to pass. And he's like, well, that spell that you had on the house isn't going to pretty much work because we can get rid of that easy. And she's like, oh no, I'm scared.
Yeah.
So she goes with him to sea and vine and sees Envy there. Just Envy. The family's not there. And he tells her the family's still at the house. And so Envy tells her, like, hey, you have 24 hours. I want the amulets.
Yeah.
Also, you should go talk to my brother because he's not the hero in your story. He's a liar and probably the biggest liar of all of us.
Yeah, and she says that she doesn't care.
She says it.
I don't care what he's got going on. Yeah. I know. I mean, when they made their initial arrangement, she knew he had his own end game. As she acknowledged, she has her own end game. So she didn't care. No. Apparently she did care. Yeah. Because she has this conversation. Envy tells her, go ask my brother about what he gets when he returns the last soul to hell. And literally the next page, she goes to the palace and she finds Wrath. And does she ask him right away?
No, she doesn't.
She kisses him.
She decides that the best time is now to like make out with this demon from hell. Why? That she was supposedly like needing to ask a question.
I hate this part. This is probably the worst part in the book for me. It's first of all, it's really awkward. So we just have this conversation with Envy. We show up at the palace. Wrath's standing there. She walks up. She's like touching him centrally. They start making out.
Yeah, she puts him against the wall. She's like
they're passionately making out. It's not like both into it. Yeah, they're both into it. And then, first of all, I hate this so much because there was no build up. There were scatters of sexual tension, sure, and like the sly things that they would say. There was no real build up though, and the fact that it happened really just disgusted me. I was so mad. I had to stop. I had to take a snack break. I was so upset at this. And then I think when I came back into the book, once you resign to the fact that it's happening.
Oh yeah, she decides to stop. She decides to stop him right then and there and ask him the question. And that's the part I hate. I already hate the fact that she's already kissing him for no reason. Like, wait, what happened to the question? But true Amelia form, she decides that the best time to ask a question is the dumbest time to make out. So I'm like, and throughout this whole book, I've always said to myself, like, this is fucking weird. Why would you do this? But this is Amelia. So I'm like, okay, I'm resigned to this. She's doing this. Whatever, fine, fuck it. But then she goes and she does this. I'm like, okay, I can't. That's the part I was like, I need a snack. I was like, I got
questions, girl.
I hate the questions so much in the middle of the worst. She asked the questions at the worst time, or she asked the stupidest questions. Yeah. So like,
why wouldn't you have asked that before? Why wouldn't you have walked into the house?
You said you don't care. Why are you doing it in the part when like?
First of all, why do you even care?
Why? Yeah,
you said you didn't care. You know he's doing. What does it matter what he gets when he brings the last? What is it? What does it matter? So he gets his.
He doesn't deny it though.
He does not deny it.
He just says, why are you pretty much wiping my tally clean of all the good things I've done and replacing it with my brother who's done what for you? Nothing.
Yeah, you're letting him sort of come in and then just like erase all of the good that he's ever done because I may or may not get something at the end of bringing these brides back to Pride.
What does it matter?
These souls back to hell. I mean, what does it matter? Of course she doesn't accept that as an answer.
She gets super mad, tells him to not follow her, to leave her alone, to never see her again, whatever.
And where does she go? Where does she go right after that?
She goes to fucking Envy.
Back to Envy. Like, I don't understand.
He's like, what are you doing here? Why are you here?
Didn't I just see you? I just sent you away?
Yeah, he's like, you must have not liked my brother's answer.
Yeah, you must have, he said something sly. Like,
you must have asked my brother the question and not liked the answer.
Yeah, and not liked what you heard.
But he's like, you're still not supposed to fucking be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where's my amulet?
Yeah, and then in the process of this, he's like confused why she's there. And then you got this person in the background screaming a spell. And pops up.
Yeah. Rises from the dead. I mean, she wasn't really dead.
But almost dead.
You don't know she's there. She rises up like a zombie in my mind.
Yeah.
And does some random spell.
Like, yeah, she puts her hand to his chest and like opens a portal first, then puts about to put her hand on his chest, asks Amelia to like get her amulet and say this spell.
It's Nona.
Yeah.
Nona rises from the dead and does this. And Envy's shocked. I was just as shocked as Envy.
Yeah.
I was also bewildered that this old lady got up and did some.
Like, what the hell?
Where was this energy when she was first talking? When she was first talking about the Horn of Hades? When Amelia was first talking about when she saw that he had the dagger? Where was this energy?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter. Nana's like, I don't know. But I can't even talk about that. That's just so ridiculous. But anyways, Envy was just like shocked. Like, holy shit, what the hell's going on? Like, think about it for a second. If you were Envy, like, what is going on? I'd be like, what is going on? No wonder why they got him by surprise, because I would be surprised.
That's what I'm saying. I was as shocked as Envy was. Like, wait, what happened? Who just rose up behind him and shoved him back into hell? What? And then they set this scene up. Like, I am ready for some answers, because this must be the last 50 pages of the book or something.
Not that many. And so now Nana and her are in this room together, left alone to speak.
I'm ready for some answers here. Yeah. I want to know who these twins are.
She gives nothing. She tells her, hey, there's a mark on you, pretty much.
Yes.
Who gave that to you? And so she says Wrath. And then she's pretty much telling her that this mark is very special, unique. It's not given to anybody, really. And then she pretty much tells her, like, that you could summon him without using anything,
any of his like house stuff.
Yeah, and so she like gets that information, but
she also gets the prophecy. So Nona does tell her that the first witch gave them the amulets and passed down from the first witch, but we don't know how many generations have spanned between the time that the prophecy starts to now. Yeah, and she says that the only people who could wear the amulets are the twins. Yeah. And that Amelia and Victoria were the first twins ever born.
And they signal the end of the devil's curse.
End of the devil's curse. So we learn about this random prophecy. We learn about the mark. And we also learn that the gates of hell are cracking and they're going to be open. And so Nona tells her, you need to run.
Yeah, you need to run. I'm going to go put this gate back together. You need to run. And don't come back. Don't talk to any of the princess. Don't do any of that. Just leave. But love is the best magic.
But love is the key here.
Love is the magic.
I don't love this reveal.
I don't love the love magic.
I don't. That's cheesy. I don't understand that. Love.
Yeah, she says love is the most powerful magic of all else. Remember that. It will always guide you where you need to go. But like that is dumb.
I wanted this to be a bigger reveal. Again, this is the end of the book. I want some actual information to be given, and Amelia could have learned about the prophecy a different way. She also could have learned about the mark a different way, maybe not through Wrath. Anyway, she could have learned it a different way. Yeah. This set up to give me so many answers for what the heck's going on in this book, because I feel like I don't have any answers about anything, and then it just fell flat. Again, like you build me up just to nothing. Yeah. That's how much information I got.
Speaking of no answers, how does she know that she needs to like search for the other missing amulet at the same place she saw the fennel stalk? So she goes there. She's like, oh, something must be there, even though she didn't think nothing of it before.
It's the magical vibes. She was getting the magical vibes.
Magical vibes.
That's what leads her all throughout this book.
But before she even like got there, she was just feeling like she needed to go to that direction. But she did. She goes to that direction. She gets to the magical vibe area and sees that there's another logo type thing or some kind of sign on the door. She presses it. She sees that it's a staircase going down, and she's like, oh, if Victoria would have done this, I need to do this.
Yeah, I need to be the brave twin now.
Yeah, so now she goes down there and she senses the magic in this tunnel, the same tunnels that look like the tunnels the Viper was in. Yep. And so she goes there and she starts hearing and seeing things in the wall. So she goes over there and she finds her amulet. And as she finds it, immediately Wrath appears and pretty much tells her she's fucking stupid. Like, you're stupid. You just have both of the amulets now. You had pretty much been a target for all these, 40-something demons are coming towards you.
That are here. Yeah.
And so he, like, puts her up against the wall and kind of, like, stands in front of her and starts fighting off these demons.
Yeah, well, he asks her, too, before this about, hey, can I I don't know what it is. Teleport us out of here. But if you give me permission, you're giving me permission for eternity. And of course, she doesn't want any part of that. So she says no. and then instead sits by and does absolutely nothing while he deals with these invisible Umbra demons by himself.
She does nothing.
And then Envy appears. And then they have a little spat for a moment, and then Envy stabs him from like the groin all the way up and slices him.
And Amelia's just watching. She's just like, heal yourself.
She even says internally to herself, again, I have no magic and no spells to heal him. And so again, you're wholly useless. Until it's her life that's on the line. Then she's no longer useless because she takes both of the amulets.
Sends him to hell. You go to hell.
And sends Envy to hell with all of his Umbra demons. So she saved herself. That was great.
Yeah. So
couldn't have done that a second later.
No. And then she gets super upset and mopey that now she's alone. And so she goes straight back to the palace and just like mopes around for a little bit before she decides that she's going to try and summon Wrath. But she doesn't give it much time. She maybe gives it, I would say an hour.
Yeah,
as long as it takes to get to the palace and lay on the bed and cry for a little bit. It's not even a day. It's like a whole few hours. And so she tries to summon him like 3 or 4 times or something like that. And it doesn't work. So she resigns herself to being like...
And I think she just kind of decides that he's probably dead.
Yeah, because she thought that as long as he's alive, that he could be summoned.
That he could be summoned no matter what.
That's what Nana said. Which you don't know. I don't know why she would believe him anymore.
And her first introduction to this idea that when they get stabbed, they get sent back to hell is when Wrath does it to Lust, and it was less dramatic. It was just a stab to the heart, and then he was fine, I guess. But this, she was more concerned that Wrath had actually been killed. Yeah. And so she does resign after a while, like, oh, he must be dead.
He must be dead. So I think I'm going to just pretty much summon Pride. You know, she kind of goes down the path. She doesn't say it right away, but she does, as she's headed to the monastery, because that's where she's going, she decides pretty much that that's what she needs to do. Yeah. So she goes to the monastery, and she finds this other room, a different room. And this fucking monastery has so many rooms. So this monastery has a different room that has pretty much looked very ancient. It's got like Latin writing on the wall, and it just looks super different. So she gets in there and she's locked in there.
Yeah, well, she can hear
something calling her.
Yeah, she can hear something talking, like whispers, almost like essentially what her sister was hearing. Yeah. From the book.
Yeah, and so she finds the book there. The book is there.
The first book of spells.
Yeah,
which is the first witch's book.
Yeah, and so while she's there, Antonio pops up and is like, "Oh, look at me, I'm here."
Yeah, because it was essentially a trap. He put that book there to trap her. Then he just appears and says, "It's been me all along."
Yeah, look at me. Yeah, I did this. But he admits to not taking the hearts out. He said he never took any of the hearts out of their bodies.
He does say that he's working for somebody. Yeah. And he describes that person as the Prince of Death as well, which ties into what Claudia was saying earlier, saying that, well, because you would assume, well, I would assume that Claudia's talking about Wrath, so I thought it was interesting that Antonio was saying that I'm doing this for the Prince of, or the Angel of Death, that's what it was, the Angel of Death. And so that's who he claims it's going to be, or claims it's working for, and then he tells Amelia, you're going to summon Pride.
So I can kill him.
So that I can kill him.
Yeah, and so Amelia's like, she goes through a range of emotions, because she's like, oh, you were my sister's killer, I'm going to kill you, you're going to die a bad death, and then it's like, oh, hold on a second. No, you're going to live because I'm going to do this with you. So like she, within one sentence, her frame of mind changes so quickly. So anyways, so yeah, she's like, okay, fine. So they summon summon Pride. And when they summon Pride, she makes a bargain with him that she's going to sell her soul, give her soul to.
But also, Pride doesn't appear. Pride just takes over Antonio's body and speaks through Antonio. And yeah, she does agree
to sell her soul
randomly that she's going to marry Pride.
Yeah, she says that she will be his bride, but he summons a dress for her. It's a gift. I don't even think she says I'm going to marry you. I think it was more along the lines of I'm willing to give you my soul, something like that. I'm not too sure, but I know that marriage wasn't really discussed. So he gives her a present, which is a dress, and the dress is gold and black, and it's got a bodice, a metal bodice of golden serpents. And so, which is very interesting because those are Wrath's colors. Yeah. And so she accepts it, dresses in it, and heads, and she tells them like, hey, bring your escorts to take me, or bring whoever you need to come get me.
I'll be in the cave that I summon Wrath.
Yeah, because Pride says he can't come because he's busy. That's what he says. So yeah. if he wants to, he will.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he doesn't, and she goes to the cave, and guess who's there?
It's Wrath.
It's Wrath.
Looking very handsome and mad.
Gorgeous. Yeah, so he's wearing a crown on his head that looks like it would be if it was upside down, dripping with blood, and he's wearing all black, and looks like he's well, and so he looks very reserved with her. He doesn't want to really give her any kind of inkling that he's like friendly with her anymore, and he talks to her in a very cold manner and pretty much just says, do you want to come with me for a transvendio thing? And she actually agrees to that, but before she leaves though, she pretty much is just like going through emotions of like, oh, surprised that he's there, and then pretty much makes a statement to herself that hope hell is ready for a vengeful queen.
That was such a good line to end this book on. It was such a good line. I don't know that I would have been ready to dive into any other books if she hadn't ended the book this way, but I thought that was such a good line because I'm like, okay, Amelia, all right.
Yeah.
I'm interested now at the very end of this book. I'm interested to see what you have to... Literally, the last line of the book, I'm interested. Though I will say one interaction that I did enjoy the parallel to was when she's talking to Antonio in the room. Antonio is talking about how much he hates witches. And he just calls them evil and says, you're all evil, you're born evil. And her reaction to that is, no, we're not born evil. We are just born and we choose. Which is an interesting parallel because she's consistently saying that to Wrath.
And that's what he says.
And that was his argument to her, is that, no, we are not evil. We just are.
We just are,
And so I thought that was such a cute little touch at the very end. Did she learn her lesson from that?
No.
I guess book 2 we'll have to see. I didn't have hope that she internalized any of that and did any introspection onto whether or not what Antonio said might be kind of correlating to what she's saying to Wrath. I don't know. But
so when she does sign this supposed agreement, it doesn't say anything about marriage. It just says she's going to give her soul to Pride. So she leaves with Wrath, and that was pretty much the end of it. Like, she gives him permission to take her, and she goes. So but there is no mention of marriage at the end of that.
No, but she does go into it thinking that
she thinks that she's getting married.
I mean, she says vengeful queen, so I assume
she thinks she's getting married to Pride the whole time.
And like, also because the
whole section.
I don't know if we stated in here, but she also thinks that Pride is the devil himself.
Yeah, she does. She says it numerous times. So I mean, overall, I really liked maybe a few parts of the book. My favorite parts were the fact that she's able to experience these things with the princes. Each prince has a different feeling, and she's willing to like put herself in these situations with him where they have a cat and mouse game, and I kind of enjoy that. But I also don't know if I like it entirely, but I do like the idea that they're kind of toying with her because they know she's stupid. They know she's stupid, and I like that they're toying with her, even though she thinks she's brilliant. They know the whole time she's really ridiculous. So I like that cat and mouse game. I really enjoy it. I love. My favorite is the seduction scene with Lust. It'll always be my favorite, only because it's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
I love the world building in this. I think that Carrie, the author, I think she did a really good job of I love the princes. I love this idea that there's a prince that represents each sin. They gain power from this specific sin. I like that they rule their circle in hell. I think this is all really great. I also love the way she did the magic. It's so seamless. Every time she's falling under one of their spells, it's almost as if you don't realize it's happening until you're already in it with her, and she's not understanding that it's happening because it feels like such true emotion. So even when she first meets Envy, this slip into being angry at him that he has so much power and being jealous of that power felt so authentic. It felt like her actual emotions. And that happens every time. Even when she's seeing Lust, that slip into, it was more obvious with Lust, but it still felt like her raw emotions. And I thought that was so beautifully done. Yeah. I really enjoyed the world building and their powers. But so what was your least favorite part?
Oh my god. I hated the way she recapped everything. And the fact that she constantly had to just talk about like how she had to do each thing and how she was just like I felt like she was sorrowful for herself constantly, and it was just too much with the recapping. That's mostly what it is. But like anytime she recapped, while she was recapping, she just talked about how it was woe is me during these recaps. And I really, really dislike the fact that it seemed like two authors wrote this book.
It did.
It felt like it was a shift and change with writing every time. It's like when I thought it was getting better, it would shift back to this weird recapping thing, and like just the way the story was being written was just written so differently at one part of the book from the other. Like that last part of the book was written so differently from the beginning of the book. It was just such a different change, and I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, I also agree, and like the recapping was annoying. Like we're
Yeah, it was
there,
so
I get
annoying.
it, Amelia. I don't need your recapping.
Constantly.
I'm there with you.
Yeah, constantly.
I think the thing that I hated the most was Amelia. It's really, really hard to like a book when I truly dislike the main character.
Yeah.
I'm fine with her being emotionally immature in the beginning. I'm fine with stupid decisions that she's making in the beginning. I just want a glimpse of some growth, a glimpse that she's changing her perspective, and she didn't give me that all the way to the very end. I guess like I still wouldn't even. Literally to the end, she's making decisions that I don't understand. The end was such a whiplash.
Yeah.
That I was.
It was here.
Okay, it was like one thing after another, and then off she's to marry Pride. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, too much.
It feels like you're just along for the ride at this point.
So yeah, after that, we kind of have our ratings for our spice level.
Oh yeah, we could do spice level first. So what would you give spice level?
Okay, for my spice level, I would go with probably like half a point because of that lust scene, man. But it's not even much. It's just the idea that there was something in it, and so I'll give it that only because like I can't say it's my favorite part, and I put something about it.
I'm gonna stick stubbornly true to the fact that I'm giving it a -5 because the taste of smut that we got or spice that we got was the makeout scene, the true taste. And I was so revolted by it that I am giving it a -5. Yeah. Now, what would you rate it for the overall?
I'm gonna go with a 2, only because I did like the idea that the story was a good story. It was just told really bad. And I did like bits and pieces of intrigue that she had, but it was just written horribly. So I'll give it a 2.
I'm also going to give it a 2. The whole book felt so amateur, and I get that it's a young adult, and maybe I went into it not understanding that it was a young adult, but it was so there's no other way to describe it other than amateur. Every build up to something fell flat for me. I might not have been able to have accurately predicted that it was Antonio at the end, but I was also not shocked by the fact that it was Antonio. I would have been more shocked if it was Wrath. Yeah. If it was one of the princes. Like,
I was hoping for one of the princes, actually.
Could you imagine a story where it was Wrath and now you're betrothed to him and now I have to untangle that web? Like, that would have been a more
I would have liked that
in-depth story.
I would have liked it.
Because I would not know what's coming next. Like, how are they going to do this? But the fact that it's Antonio is like, okay, so it's your childhood crush.
Yeah.
And it was that way with everything. From the moment that we have our first action scene with the snake, it's a 15-second, it happens, and then it didn't happen. And then we get, again, another build-up with Nona about to reveal secrets, and then it falls flat again. That was the entire...
That's the whole book.
That was the entire book for me.
That's the whole book.
I'm almost even more mad about it because she has such a great storyline that she could have worked off of. It's so intriguing to have this idea of witches and princes of hell, and... You have such a great baseline, and every time you fail, and not just once, not just throughout the entire book, everything you built up, you failed.
Yep.
You failed to deliver. The execution was just horrid.
I'm
sorry.
No, I completely agree. It was horrible.
But, but we're a glutton for punishment, so we're going to go ahead and dive headfirst into the second book, Kingdom of the Curse. I will say, the one thing that propelled me through this book was just, I wanted to complete it. I wanted to be done with it and move on to a different book. But then that end line, I don't know what it is about that. The end line that really, I have, I don't know, fake hope that Amelia is going to turn around and really like give me what I want from her.
I'm really resigned to the fact that she's gonna be stupid in this book. But I do want to read it because I hear that the second book is a lot better and has a lot more smut in it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the more...
I hear it's the best book, or sorry, the better book of the two. So I'm looking forward to that, hoping that it is actually what the reviews say it's going to be. So,
well, we'll see. So we'll be reading that one this week. We post episodes every Wednesday of our book reviews. We would appreciate it if you liked and shared and commented down below. We would love to continue the conversation. maybe if you agreed with us or you didn't agree with us, or if we got something completely
Which you
wrong.
probably did.
Possibly. But thank you so much for joining us for this one. And we'll see you back here next week for Kingdom of the Cursed. Woo!